Jane Velez Mitchell, Jane Unchained, Live Talk. We've got breaking news to bring you. Judy Mancuso is with social compassion and legislation. This is happening now. This is breaking news regarding COVID-19 and the live meat markets that exist here in the United States of America, specifically in New York and California. Tell us, Judy Mancuso, what's happening?
Well, today we sent out a press release that we are going to be doing legislation in both the state of California and the state of New York that will ban live animal markets.
That's huge. That is absolutely huge. You're saying that you have actual legislators in New York State and in California who are going to be supporting you to ban these live meat markets that don't just exist in China, which is where COVID-19, the coronavirus, started, in a wet market, a live meat market in China. You're saying you're going to have them banned here in the two dominant states in the United States, New York State and California. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so off, group Social Compassion and Legislation sponsors legislation. So what that means is go to elected officials and we pitch them an idea and ask them, will you carry this bill for us? And so Senator Henry Stern did a bill for us a couple years ago called the Iconic African Species Act that Jane, you were instrumental in helping in. And it got all the way to Governor Brown's desk and he vetoed it at the time because he didn't want Fish and Wildlife to spend this extra money for enforcement. And what that would have done is ban the possession of endangered species as trophies. People, go and hunt these animals, bring them back to California. So to ban the possession of these body parts, these animals. Sorry about the barking dogs.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Continue on.
So this year we started over with that bill because there's a good chance Governor Newsom is going to sign it. He's on our side with this. And then COVID-19 hit, right? And the first thing in my mind, watching these press conferences day after day and the world suffering, the financial crisis, the human crisis, everything that's gone in it. The only thing in my mind that kept going on and on was we have to get to the source. We have to get rid of the source of this problem. It's not about new vaccines. It's not about new medications to treat it. It's about making sure it doesn't happen again. I mean, yes, now we're in it. We need those vaccines. We need the medication, but we need to prevent this from happening. So I called Senator Stern and said, would you put this bill, this SB 75, banning live markets in California? And he said, well, what live markets are there? We need my staff to look at it, figure out what the policy would look like, the ramifications. And he understands that even though this virus came from China, Wuhan market, a bunch of wildlife, the thing is, it can come from any animals with zoonotic viruses. So in California, live markets can have turtles, it can have frogs, and it can have birds that are non-poultry. That is the definition of a live market in California. Now it's different. State to state, it's different. But we can ban that. And he agreed to put that in our bill. So we can clean this up here at home and model for the rest of the United States and around the globe. Well, PETA just did an undercover investigation of wet markets in New York, right? And others I know were involved. A lot of people have been looking into this. Your friend Donnie has been integral.
And let me just show very quickly, here is a live meat market in New York City. There's somebody in with a little cart, a regular shopping cart, buying live chickens for slaughter. And here is another video showing the actual slaughter. This is courtesy of PETA, which you put in your news release. You see the blood, you see it's a petri dish for disease. It's
disease.
Disgusting.
Right.
And people like to point the finger at China and say this only happens in China. Not true. There are more than 80 live meat markets in California, in New York City alone. And I've been to one in New York and I've been to one here in California. And they're all the same. Anytime you slaughter animals, you're going to have blood, you're going to have guts, you're going to have feces, you're going to have urine, you're going to have bacteria, you're going to have the very ingredients for disease that triggered the COVID-19 at the live meat market in Wuhan, China. So go ahead, Judy.
So since I first started talking to Senator Stern about this, I reached out to our dear friend Ingrid Newkirk at PETA, because PETA's a leader here and doing this stuff. And then also Wild Aid. And they're a group that I met recently over the years, but they have a huge presence in Asia. And they have been working with China to close down it's there. They've been working in Vietnam, Cambodia. So they have a very large presence in those countries. And so I reached out to John Baker and start talking to them, everybody, about helping, that if we got this going, you know, are they there to help? Because this is going to be a big push and we want to just see it done here. We want to see it done around the globe. So Ingrid mentioned that they had this coverage in New York, and she said, Judy, is there any way that we could get this done in New York too? And I said, well, you know, I worked with Assemblywoman, Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal on the dogs, as you well know, another effort you were integral in and an initiator in. And I said, let me call her and reach out to her and check it out, right?
Now, let me just recap here, is that we're talking about legislation that's going to be introduced in New York State and in California to ban the live meat markets that are the source of the coronavirus. The coronavirus started, something the mainstream media very rarely mentions, at a live meat market in Wuhan, China. SARS also happened in 2003 at a live meat market in China in another province. We also have mad cow disease, avian flu, swine flu, all of these zoonotic diseases that start with animals and they can jump to human beings in many cases. And the vast majority of these diseases are centered around our abuse of animals in the food system. So people like to just limit it. It started with bats in China. No, it likely started with bats in China, then jumped to another animal, possibly pangolins, then into this live meat market where there was all this blood and feces and disgust. And those ingredients, the blood, the feces, the urine, the guts, the bones, they exist in every single slaughterhouse. And so you are moving now with representatives in New York and in California to propose legislation to ban the live markets in those two states. And let me also say right here that Cory Booker and Lindsey Graham, who are politically on the opposite sides of the fence, obviously, one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, joined with approximately 60 other legislators, national legislators, to call on the World Health Organization to ban wet markets globally amid the coronavirus. So Continue on.
Well, Jane, that told me the political winds are in our sails, right? When you have 66 Democrats and Republicans that sign a letter saying ban live animal markets, that's the time to move. Is the time to get it done. So reached out to Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal. I told her what we were doing in California, and I asked her if she would do a bill in the state of New York and come out with us in this press release to announce and make it a thing at once, right? Because we need to take a stand. We need to take a big stand. And it's not okay to ask these other countries to do things that we're not willing to do ourselves. We are immune to zoonotic diseases in our own live markets. So Assemblymember Rosenthal was absolutely 1,000% on board. This is who she is. She understands exactly the crisis at hand that is linked to the animals, the abuse, the cruelty, and everything that piles on along with it. So she's joined with us. She has asked their legislative council to start drafting a bill. Of course, it's disjointed with people working from home right now. So it's going to take a little bit of time to craft language and get it together. She's the under footage from New York, and she wants, now in California, the poultry birds are not a part of the legislation. Linda would like to see the poultry birds be a part of the legislation. She saw the video, right? How can you see those videos, that undercover footage of what's going on, and not want to be a part of eliminating that from her city, her state?
Yeah, and we are talking with Judy Mancuso, the president of Social Compassion and Legislation. You know, our internet's a bit spotty with Judy. There's a lot of people using the internet now, and things can be challenging, but this is such important information. We didn't want to wait. We wanted to bring it to you right away. Breaking news. You've been on Reuters today. This is making national news, as you made the announcement that there will be this legislation that will ban live markets in New York and in California. Now, I can tell you that Donnie Moss of theirturn.net has shown video that is absolutely horrifying. We've got Jill Carnegie from Slaughter Free New York City, Adita Bernkrandt from New York Class. They've all been working to stop the slaughter of animals in these live meat markets in New York City, and the footage is horrendous. And most people in New York City have no idea, because guess what? They put it in the areas that are very low income. It's basically environmental racism. There's no slaughterhouses on Park Avenue. There's no slaughterhouses in Beverly Hills. They're put in low income communities of color, essentially. And there are horrific repercussions from that. In fact, quite often, Donnie Moss was telling me, as well as Jill Carnegie, that the local people who live in the neighborhoods join the protests because they are dealing with the stench, and they're dealing with the blood, and they're dealing with all of the terrible things that come along with a slaughterhouse that, you know, the people who are eating these animals don't have to deal with. Now, right. A lot of people are risking their lives to go to work in slaughterhouses in general. You know, the other big breaking news, Judy, is that there are coronavirus cases popping up en masse across the country at slaughterhouses because people are working elbow to elbow, deboning and killing animals. There was a front page story in the New York Times, and there's an overall uproar about that. So that's part of the equation too, is that it's an unsafe environment for people to be working in, and it's considered an essential service, which the union leader, who we hope to talk to tomorrow, who said it's not an essential service. You don't have to eat cows to survive. That was almost a direct quote. She said you can do without beef and survive. You can do without pork. I don't even say pork, pigs, and survive. You can survive and flourish and be healthier without these animals. So why is it even considered an essential service? And when do you expect your legislation to become official?
Well, the California bill is in right now. We have to make amendments to it. So the bill that's in print is going to be amended with policy. So that it could take up to 30 days. And I know Assemblymember Rosenthal is working on getting a draft going. So it could be a couple of weeks, but didn't want to wait. We get the word out there. We need the support, and we need others to follow. And that's the most important thing, because this has to be a global movement. This is global. The answers to it have to be global.
What can people do to? Obviously, they can call their state legislators in New York State and in California and say, "We want to."
Not yet. Yeah, not yet, because the legislature's on hiatus, right? So right now, as soon as a call to action, believe me, on our website, if people want to go to socialcompassionandlegislation.org, we have a help page. And what happens is you fill out a support letter. Senator Stern's bill is up there, so they can support letter for his bill. And we will have Assemblymember Rosenthal's up there as well. So to go to our website and fill out being on our email list, as soon as there's the action that everybody is there and ready, we're gonna need the support. But Jane, just getting back to what you were saying about all these viruses that cause these other pandemics in our lifetime. The 1918 biggest one was caused, the H1N1 was an avian source. That's what they know for sure, is that it was an avian source. So it's the other pandemic, and was so much bigger than this one, but we don't need any more. We don't need bigger ones, little ones. We don't need any.
Right. There's a very simple solution to this, and you've hit the nail on the head, is eliminate the live markets. That's where they've emanated from. So SARS started in a live market in another province in China in 2003. This one started at a seafood market, but that's really a misnomer. They were killing all sorts of animals. There was dogs and pangolins and bats.
I saw the video of where that, I watched the 60 Minutes Australia sent me. That was an amazing piece, and Richard Engel went to the researcher that has the bats. I knew those wet markets were disgusting. I never knew they were the size of our malls, like a Walmart or something. The size of that wound.
Yes, you're breaking up a little bit. Yes, you're talking about the size of the Wuhan market. It's massive. It was massive. Now, China has temporarily shut down their live markets. We have to make sure that that's permanent. And there are those who are even suspicious of the fact that they shut them down, that maybe they're opening surreptitiously. They have some guards. I read an article where some of them are being guarded by guards that try to keep people from photographing. So this is a global problem. I was very heartened to see that we have a bipartisan. bipartisan effort to close these down. Again, Cory Booker and Lindsey Graham on the absolute opposite sides of the fence politically, as we all know. Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey who ran for president, dropped out, and Lindsey Graham, a conservative Republican from South Carolina, and they have gotten together to say ban wet markets globally, and they've called on the World Health Organization to do so, and there were 60 plus legislators, members of Congress who joined them. So I think there is a growing move for this. Why should we have to go through this again? And the next one could be worse. It could be even more severe.
Right. We could see something even bigger in our lifetime. Who would have thought? We are living in a horror science fiction movie right now. None of us could have believed that this could happen in our lifetime. And now what it proves is not only has it happened in our lifetime, it could even be worse. So we must shut down these markets. It is the only responsible to do.
It absolutely is. And, you know, I am so thrilled. First of all, let me say kudos to you, Judy Mancuso. You know how to get things passed into law. There's a lot of people who are saying, you know, let's shut live markets, but really what it requires is legislation. And so kudos to you for introducing and having this legislation introduced in the two most, let's face it, the two most high-profile states in the United States. California is the 5th largest economy in the world on its own. So to ban live markets here would be send a message to the world. You know, whatever happens in California, the rest of the world follows. The first country follows, and the rest of the world follows.
Right, and Linda being a state assemblywoman in New York and running the largest city in the United States. So the combination of these two is very powerful. I could not do any of this without willing legislators. And Senator Henry Stern has been a champion for animals, endangered species. And so I am so grateful to him take this on. And Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal, an incredible champion. She got declawing cats banned. She got our dining rooms. I think she's done other animal welfare, animal rights bills and got them done. She's amazing. So yes, my group pushes the on. We lead the charge, but we could do nothing without these legislators that are willing to put themselves out there and make these changes that are so sorely needed to our state, our nation, and our world right now.
So once again, breaking news, you're hearing it here. There's a little bit of a internet problem, but we're powering through.
Sorry.
That's all right, because it's such important information that is breaking right now that the woman you're looking at here, the president of Social Compassion Legislation, working with Senator Henry Stern, a state senator here in California, as well as Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal, who is an assemblywoman in New York State, are both involved now in proposing legislation to ban live meat markets. They call them wet markets. You can call them a slaughterhouse. You can call it a wet market. You can call it a meat market. It's where they kill animals on the spot, which that's pretty much wherever they kill animals. It's on the spot. But this is where people go in and they shop for the animal they want to have killed. This is just a shot there, courtesy of PETA, of some of the disgusting conditions, as you can see, body parts, blood on the ground. And here's a woman shopping in New York City, courtesy of theirturn.net and Dottie Moss, and putting live chickens into her shopping cart so she can go and have them slaughtered. I mean, this is, first of all, I think it's barbaric. And secondly, it certainly doesn't belong in the 21st century. And certainly at the epicenter, the global epicenter of the coronavirus, New York City, which is in crisis. Why are they allowing this to continue? It blows my mind that wouldn't be the first thing they would shut down. But thank God that you're proposing this legislation.
Hey, I can understand that they need to focus on the gloves and the mask and the gowns and getting money to people and the ventilators. It is for people like us that are on the outside, that are still doing our job day to day and speaking out for the animals and getting the right uh, people in place, organizing all of this and making this happen. So, again, big kudos to Senator Stern and Assemblymember Rosenthal. And thank you, Jane. And I'm so sorry about having
No,
the
don't worry
problem
about
with
it.
the internet
It's just a little
connection.
intermittent. It's fine. Judy Mancuso, president of Social Compassion and Legislation. If you want to get involved, she has a huge, huge network of people, including some very prominent people. Diane Keaton is someone you've worked very closely with, and many
She's
other.
she's on our board.
Yes,
And
Diane Keaton is on your
and Louise
board.
Linton. Yeah.
Yes, and Louise Linton and others. And so it's a real powerhouse organization. It always needs more help. We often go. Judy Mancuso says, Jane, I need you to go to Sacramento. I get on a plane. Obviously, we're all in isolation now, but I'm talking about pre-coronavirus. We would just jump on a plane and get to Sacramento. And I've seen laws passed with my very eyes because this woman knows how to navigate the legislative system. It is Byzantine, and it requires somebody who really knows how it works. And I believe if anybody can get this legislation to ban live markets in New York State and California, you can do it with your incredible team and the help of Senator Henry Stern here in California and Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal in New York. And we will stay on top of this. We wanted to bring you the breaking news. This just happened today. And we will keep you apprised of its progress. And again, go to socialcompassionlegislation.org, sign up. You're going to get the very latest emails and be a part of this change. We can change it. We can stop this. Thank you so much, Judy Mancuso, for joining us. And thank you at home for watching.
Thank you, Jane. Bye-bye.
Bye.